Hey, good morning, Metropolis. It's now 5 after the hour of 6 a.m. in the big monster city.
Come on! Let's get pumped!
I'm not drinking any fucking Merlot! What can I say? The camera loves me.
Shall we begin?
After you, Junior.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Multiplex Logged It. I'm your host, Kaleb Boatman, and today we got a fun one for you. This is Crime Gone Wrong movies. I want to say this was inspired by Inside's release. I don't quite remember what Tim and I were talking about, but I think this had to do with the release of Inside. But anyway, it doesn't even really matter. Crime movies where a crime happens and then it goes wrong are always awesome. They just are. It's the law. And we're going to talk about some of our favorites. But before we get into that, let's see who the panel is today. We got a good one. Kirk, you like your crime? Do you like it going wrong?
Yeah. I mean, all crime is crime gone wrong because crime doesn't pay. And that's what the movies teach us most of the time, especially during the Hays Code. But, yeah, there's a lot of good movies. Some of my favorites, maybe my favorite of all time, might happen to be a crime gone wrong. I don't know if I'll talk about that one. There's some new ones, but I'm excited to see what everybody brings to the table.
Yeah. Joseph, how are you doing?
All right.
Okay, then. Bill!
Oh, yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, it should be a fun episode.
I thought I said Bill, but...
Oh, I thought you said Dylan. Okay, I'm sorry.
Logged it gone wrong.
Logged it gone wrong. And Dylan, how are you?
All right, is it me? It's me this time. That's fine. I'm fine. I'm doing fine. Apparently, I'm stammering. Yeah.
That's fair. Well, we'll just get into it. Starting with what we always start with. Favorite movie that you logged this week. Joseph, kick us off.
Okay, my favorite movie that I logged this week was a rewatch. There is an upcoming supposed fourth Indiana Jones movie later this year, and I rewatched Temple of Doom a couple of months ago. I had not seen Raiders or Last Crusade in a long time, so I rewatched Last Crusade, and it is still so much fun. It was the first time I had gone back to it since Sean Connery died, so that gave it also a little kind of more an emotional touch to that. And especially the ending, there's this one line where well, if you haven't seen it, what are you doing? But the part where his dad calls him Indiana, I don't know why, but that got me so much more emotional when he saves his life at the end, when he almost doesn't, when he saves him at the end by calling him Indiana after calling him Junior. That got me that hit me way harder than I had ever remembered about it last time. There is barely a wasted moment in this movie. It is just constant thrills and fun banter between Henry Sr. and Jr. And I still love it a lot. There's a lot of great action pieces. It starts with the cruciform, the Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword, and also the tank scene. And I also love the way that it balances comedy with all of the thrills, and it's still really fantastic.
Yeah, this is my favorite of the Indiana Jones franchise. One of my favorite action movies in general. I think there are just so many great set pieces to this movie. Specifically, I love the Nazi castle escape where they're tied to the chairs and the fire's going on. That's just such a These movies are so good at blending the action and the comedy together. I think we talk about it I've talked about it at least 1,000 times at this point. But the moment where Indy starts talking up Marcus Brody, and it's he'll blend in anywhere. With any luck, he's got the grill already. And then smash cut to, does anybody here speak English? Or perhaps ancient Greek? Is it just maybe one of the greatest singular edits in a film ever? Last Crusade just freaking rules, guys.
The no ticket line was one of my favorites as a kid, also.
So good. Kirk?
Yeah, that's probably the greatest comedic smash cut of all time. Just and I think it's just such a great because the thing I love about Indiana Jones is how like it's the story of him kind of just faking his way through all this. And that's like the most perfect example of like him like just putting on that bravado when it's absolute nonsense. But yeah, I love this one. It's not my favorite, but when you tell me your favorite, I have no problem with that because I mean, this and Raiders are neck and neck. I like Raiders a little bit more, but this was fantastic. Yeah, it has all the great characters. It has Marcus Brody, it has Sala, bringing Sean Connery in, which is a great addition. Yeah, I think this is probably the best cast of an Indiana Jones movie. Beyond just him himself. Even though it's not my favorite, I think the cast comes together so well here. So fantastic movie. 89, great year for movies.
That's true, Dylan.
Sorry, did you say me or Bill?
He said Dylan.
Okay, sorry.
Like, is there?
Dylan, it's your turn.
Anyways, I didn't want to step over Bill this time.
Fair.
My opinions are horse shit. It's fine.
I don't know if I ever got the chance to talk about this on Multiplex, but this franchise really does actually mean a lot to me because like this is one of the first franchises that I ever like really fell in love with as a kid. Like I think I watched Star Wars before then, and I thought it was like it was pretty good, that just passable entertainment basically. But then I watched these movies, and like I remember originally just seeing like a clip of like Raiders of the Lost Ark just on TV randomly, like, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever because it showed like just a brief clip of like the infamous scene of him running away from the boulder, and I thought it was awesome. Watched all the movies in like the same week, rented them from the library, dressed up like Indiana Jones for Halloween, and yeah, this movie I think is really good. Not quite as good as Raiders of the Lost Ark for me, but yeah, still a lot of great moments of comedy and action, and yeah, I just love this franchise.
For me, I was at a friend's house, and then there appeared Last Crusade. That was my first indie movie, and then I just stayed with it because it was like, oh, it's the guy who played Han Solo, and that was my introduction to that.
Fair. Bill.
So this was the first Indiana Jones movie I saw in the theater. I really adore this movie. It really depends on what day of the week you catch me, whether this or Raiders is my number one, because they're both fantastic. Temple of Doom's just mean. I don't want to get into it. But I mean, it's a great trilogy. It really is. There's 3 perfectly good movies. But this one is just a lot of fun. I do love like my other favorite jokes. It's like where it's like it's the big X and X marks the spot, and it's just him having to realize like X marks the spot. There it is. And it's just like a nice callback to earlier, and just the whole cast. Everybody's fantastic. So good. So
that's fair. Well, Kirk, let's go over to you. What was your favorite movie log this week?
Yeah, I've been going through and watching some older movies because I kind of got a reputation as being a 70s guy. But I realized I go back and look, there's a lot of 70s stuff I haven't seen. So I'm going back. I'm in 1970 right now, just catching on some stuff I haven't seen. And a movie I watched last night, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. Didn't know much about this movie. Just saw it was like in the, I think, top 10 grossing movies in 1970. So I'm like, I'll check this out. So I found out it's directed by Russ Meyer, who I've never seen any of his work, but I kind of know the reputation. So I had an idea what I was in for, at least I thought I did. So it's a movie about this all-girl band and their manager, who's the boyfriend of one of the band members. They decide they're going to go to California because the one band member's aunt is rich or something, and she has money that she can try and get out of her. So they go, and it's kind of, I said this movie is like, it's Boogie Nights meets The Room, because you have like that 70s LA decadence lifestyle, like hangout movie, but also it's a movie where just, the plot, like I said, the plot I just described about the money just goes away in the middle of the movie. Like it's never resolved. They just stop talking about it. And then other plots just start, pop up and end the next scene, and characters who were not in the movie at all are suddenly like the focus of the movie for a while, and then they go away. So it just has that kind of real ridiculousness to it. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but the third act goes just completely off the rails. And you get to the point where you think, okay, this is as insane as this movie is going to get. It goes to another level. and then it goes to another level, and then it goes to another level. I watched, like I said, I watched this last night. I was in bed. I'm like, I'm not quite ready to go to sleep yet. I'll watch maybe a half hour of this, and then finish it tomorrow. I was glued to the screen the entire time, and my eyes did not droop once. If you watch this movie, you would not be like, "Oh, this is a Kirk movie." I would have recommended it to him because it doesn't feel like that. But just how incredibly engaged I was with the movie, I had to give it a really good rating because, like I said, it never lost me. I never lost interest. It's just the most bananas movie I've ever seen. And like I said, I'm tempted to talk about certain things. Like there's one character you find out it's a very small character, but you find out something very significant about him and who the character actually is. And I was like, did I fall asleep and am I dreaming this right now? Because they would never really put that in a movie. But they did, and it's crazy, and I loved it. So this is what I'm definitely going to recommend.
Fair. Yeah, I have never seen this. The only thing I know about this movie is that it was written by Roger Ebert. That's the only context I have for it. But has anyone... Bill, I feel like if anybody's seen this, have you seen this?
Fucking of course I saw this. Come on.
Okay.
And Kirk's right. This is bonkers, batshit crazy. It's Russ Meyer. You know where you're going to get to when you walk into a Russ Meyer movie. So, yeah, absolutely. It's. I'm not going to say it's for everybody, but it's at least worth a viewing. So, just to say, it's one of those you need to say you saw it kind of things.
That's fair. Joseph, Dylan, I safe to assume.
I also only knew the Roger Ebert wrote it.
Yeah. Anyway, over to me now. This wasn't necessarily a fantastic week for logs for me, so I'm going to go with one that I found flaws with it. I still had a good time. I finally caught up to The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, and while I think my biggest problem with the movie is that essentially all the tricks this movie pulls, adaptation did it first and did it better. Like, it's actually it's weird how similar the movie is to adaptation, but they never directly reference that, despite the fact that you totally could reference adaptation within the movie because Nicolas Cage. So it's kind of weird. Specifically, what they do with the third act is very similar to what adaptation does with its third act. But I think the thing that makes this movie work is honestly not even really the meta elements. It's like the friendship between Nicolas Cage and Javi, Pedro Pascal's character. Like, their dynamic is so good. And I think Cage is great, but I think Pedro Pascal steals this movie. He is such a fully fleshed out character that I did not expect going in. And I think Pedro Pascal is the MVP of this. Kirk, did you see this?
Yeah, I seen it. I thought it was pretty good. It was all right. I'm not into the whole Nick Cage thing and the whole Nick Cage persona, so I wasn't excited about it from that end. I thought he was good in it. I thought it was an interesting take. I saw a lot of parallels to Birdman. Just the idea of a washed up actor who's talking to an younger version of himself and kind of coming to terms with things. So that's the movie I compared it to. And yeah, that stuff was hit or miss for me. But the stuff with Pedro Pascal was fun. So yeah, I mean, I didn't love it, but I thought it was all right.
Did you see it?
I did. I thought it had entertaining moments, but the meta elements just kind of bored me eventually. I was not. I was indifferent overall to the movie, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
Dylan? No, I have not seen it.
Bill?
Of course, I've seen it. I love this movie. It's hilarious. And you are all correct in this whole movie works because Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal are just amazingly good together. Is anyone having a better career couple years than Pedro Pascal right now? That guy is pretty much slam dunk in it. Although this movie rules for the simple fact if it recognizes that the greatest film ever made is Paddington 2.
Technically the third greatest film of all time.
I mean, it's pretty goddamn fantastic. So
I'm saying according to the movie itself.
Yeah. But the fact that it even mentions Paddington 2 is incredible.
After Face Off and The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
It's just the most believable thing I feel like Nick Cage would force his daughter to watch in real life. So I really feel like that would happen.
Bill, we'll stick with you. What is your favorite movie log this week?
Okay, and apologies in advance to anybody that follows me on Letterboxd because I've been studying for a bunch of matches. I got like 50 movies waiting to go. So I apologize because I didn't want people to know what the fuck I was watching. So I apologize. But I would say my favorite, but one I actually found to be a little more interesting. I found it's Oblivion with Tom Cruise and found it to be actually kind of enjoyable. It was a pretty good. I like a good sci-fi movie. The things that I liked about the movie was, one, he's actually very good in it. The handful of supporting cast who is there is actually very good. Also, this movie, gorgeously shot. Everything looks beautiful. And the score is top notch. It really is. And I'm not one to go harping on scores, but like this score perfectly fits this movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's like the greatest thing I've ever seen, but I also had to watch this in The Mummy. So I'm going to tell you right now, after that, this movie's Lawrence of fucking Arabia. Because that movie is some horse shit. But I ended up really enjoying it. I think it's on like Netflix right now to do like for the next couple days. And yeah, it's a breezy pace. It's worth a watch. I enjoyed it. Yeah. I don't want to go too much into it, but yeah, it's a pretty good premise. I actually was like kind of surprised. So
fair enough. I have never seen this one. Did you see this?
I have not gotten around to this one yet. No.
Joseph?
I have, and I had kind of cautious expectations about it because I had heard mixed things about it, and I enjoyed it overall. I love like what Bill was saying. The cinematography is great. It has a great aesthetic and production design to it, and that was enough. Or at least it. I feel like the first half is probably the weakest element. It takes a while to get its footing, but once it does, the second half is definitely more entertaining to watch.
Fair. Dylan?
I haven't seen it.
Fair enough. Well, Dylan, back over to you. What is your favorite movie log this week?
Yeah, I'll talk about it, and then we can just go right to the next segment because I guarantee no one's seen it. But it's a Canadian film called My Winnipeg. This is a film by director Guy Madden, who is a really interesting director. Basically, the story behind this movie, he was approached by the documentary channel in Canada, which was asked him to make a movie about Winnipeg. The city that he is his hometown, basically. And they had basically told him not to portray it as just the frozen, snowy hellscape that everyone knows it to be. But basically what Guy Madden did is he made what he calls a docu-fantasia, basically, which at first sounds like a very pretentious way of saying mockumentary, but then you watch the movie and it's actually like, it does this really weird thing where it blends, it very much like blurs the line between reality and like fantasy and like makes you question like what is supposed to be taken literally and what isn't. Because like it's a film about his hometown, Winnipeg, but it's also just about like him growing up and like his memories that he made within Winnipeg and with his family specifically and his complicated relationship with his mother. And it goes in some directions that get like very surreal and like weird. Like there's a part where like just an example of how like surreal it gets. Basically, there's a part where it's describing how in the nighttime everyone is like basically sleepwalking through the streets, and there's like civic laws in Winnipeg where if a sleepwalker arrives at your door, you're required by law to offer them to stay at your house, basically. It's like really weird like moments like that, but it also has like this strange sense of humor throughout the whole movie as well, and just the way it like weaves these different tangents and like just random subplots in it is like really well done, and it's just a film unlike anything I've really ever seen, and it was like one of the more interesting films that I've seen recently about like nostalgia, because there's like a lot of films being made nowadays where filmmakers are basically making films about their own childhood, and this one came out like a little while before that became like really popular nowadays. But yeah, this is a really, really fascinating watch and very Canadian. Yes.
Sounds it.
Yeah.
No, gonna go out on a limb and say nobody's seen this one.
No, but I know Winnipeg is the birthplace of Chris Jericho, so it immediately rules.
Okay, then. Well, we'll get over to the other side of the coin. Your least favorite movie you logged this week. Joseph, back to you.
Okay, so this might have been like something that I logged last week. I don't remember. It might have been when Logged It happened last week, but I'm going to include it as my least favorite of the past week because honestly, I didn't hate really anything that I logged this past week. So within the past week, my least favorite movie is, and it's not really a movie that I would say is necessarily terrible. It's just, I think that it needs a restoration because some of the technical aspects and limitations at the time definitely affected the way that I saw it. It's one of Alfred Hitchcock's earlier films. It's 1939's Jamaica Inn. The sound is very terrible at times, and the editing is also kind of weird at the time. For the time, I feel like if the movie were restored, it would flow better to get more involved into the movie because I think that the premise itself is kind of entertaining still. Charles Lawton is like this. He's secretly organizing these raids on ships that arrive at a dock that are near this inn, the Jamaica Inn. And it was also Maureen O'Hara's film debut, so I thought that was at least entertaining. But I feel like, again, it's not a terrible movie. I think that the way that Hitchcock directs the story itself is entertaining enough, and he generates enough suspense with having these pirates being hired by Charles Lawton and Maureen O'Hara trying to get out of the inn. But it definitely feels like it's technically unimpressive.
That is fair. Yeah, I have not seen this one. Kirk, you see this one?
I have not. Sounds interesting though. I have watched some of Hitchcock's older stuff. It's interesting to see his early work.
Bill, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you haven't. Yeah.
No, I mean I do like Hitchcock. I've seen a lot of his stuff, but there is still some gaps in that filmography for me. So
I mean, it's a big filmography, especially those older stuff. Dylan?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Well, Kirk, over to you.
Okay, I'm going to stick with my 70s deep dive for my worst movie. And this is one that I'm cheating a little bit. I'm going back a little bit further than a week, but I'm okay with it because this is a movie that needs addressed. Yeah, this is a movie that in 1970 was nominated for a ton of Oscars. I think it was the highest grossing movie that year. It's still, from what I understand, adjusted for inflation, one of the highest grossing movies ever. And it's Love Story. And this is a movie, not just the movie itself, but growing up in the 80s and 90s, this was like still ingrained in pop culture. Like anytime on a TV show, when like somebody was sitting on a couch watching a movie and crying, it was always Love Story. And so like the idea of the movie has always been ingrained in my head, but I never saw it. Plus the name of it's Love Story, so you think it's going to be like some great story, and it's not. It's terrible. This is a really, really bad movie. It's two people that are really unlikable come together who have no chemistry, and it's just like the movie saying these people are going to be together and you have to watch it. So that's why they're that's why they're getting together. There's nothing. John Marley's in it. He plays the girl's Ally McGraw's mom or dad, and he's really good, but he's only in it for like 5-10 minutes. Ally McGraw gives off real Nepo baby energy, if you know what I mean. Like she's just not good, and it's like your dad got you this job because she is really terrible. Ryan O'Neal is not that much better. And I'll tell you what, Kathy watches with me for rom-coms or for romantic movies like this. She's kind of my barometer because if she's on board, then maybe I'm wrong. But she checked out after like 15 minutes. She could not finish this movie. It's so bad, and it just like this happened. It's paced really poorly. There's no like development to the relationship. It's just like, oh, we're in love now because we are, and we're getting married now because we are, and then it just goes from there. And it's like I said, you don't like them. A lot of it's set in Harvard because they're both going to college, set in Harvard. Imagine Social Network if Rooney Mara's character is also an insufferable douchebag that you want to punch in the face. and that's a pretty good explanation of this movie. It just there's really nothing here to latch onto. Even the theme song was real famous and popular. It's not that good. The tagline, "Love means never having to say you're sorry," is one of the dumbest thing that's ever been said out loud in a movie before. So this is one of the movies when I see how successful it was, completely blows my mind how this did as well as it did.
I'll say, Kirk, I think the best thing to come out of that tagline, though, is the ending of What's Up, Doc?
Yeah.
Where Barbara Streisand says to Ryan O'Neal's character, "Love means never having to say you're sorry." And Ryan O'Neal looks at the camera and says, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." Cut to credits. Like, oh, I've seen Love Story. I basically agree with you, though. The one area where it's kind of interesting, we're kind of flip-flop. I actually think Ryan O'Neal is giving a worse performance than Ally McGraw. I actually think Ally McGraw is the one thing about the movie I actually liked. I actually think she's good. I think everything else around her, including John Marley, weirdly enough, I don't think he's great, is not good. Honestly, the one performance outside of Ally McGraw I like is Ray Milland as Ryan.
Yeah, he's
O'Neal.
not bad either.
Yeah. But I actually think Ryan O'Neal, who is an actor who I like in other things, I think he's very funny in What's Up, Doc. He's funny in Paper Moon. He's all right in Barry Lyndon. I like him in other things. I think he's a vacuum of personality in this movie.
I mean, I don't think he's good either. Trust me. Yeah. They're both substitutes here.
Yeah, I think he's a vacuum of personality in this, and I think partially his character. I'll agree with this. Neither of these characters are very well written. These are both very poorly written characters. I felt like Ally McGraw got something out of it, though. But that's just me. Joseph, you're nodding and shaking your head back and forth a lot, so I'm guessing you've seen this one too.
I have. I'd have to think back about the Best Picture nominees that I've seen, but it's ranked up there, down there with among my least favorite films ever getting nominated for Best Picture. I hated the central romance with the movies. The characters do not make me sympathize with them at all. And I felt for that reason that I thought John Marley was okay in it. I don't think I still would have given him like a Best Supporting Actor nomination, but like he was the one part that felt like was the most sensible of those three characters. But yeah, I watched it and then it just went to my head. I haven't thought about it much since then.
Fair. Dylan, have you seen this?
No, I feel like this would not be my type of movie.
Bill?
Yeah, I mean, come on now. Yeah.
Well, we're over to me. And I don't have anything bottom of the barrel in terms of a first-time watch, but I rewatched a little movie. Pocahontas, everybody. It's not great. It's not great. I'm going through Disney animation again with Isabel, and even she was like, and she has usually a higher tolerance than I do for these, and she was just like, "Nah, can we just not?" But we watched it anyway. The one thing I'll give this movie, Alan Menken is just a freaking genius. Like I don't think these songs are actually particularly all that great outside of Colors of the Wind is good. I actually think these songs are not great, but this score rules. Like this score is actually very good. But yeah, no. I also give the actual human designs are not great. Like these characters look. I think they went for too realistic, and it kind of gets into uncanny valley at times. But I think the colors look nice, like the pinks and the blues in the background. Like the backgrounds look nice. But the actual human design characters are not great. The animal characters are fine. But yeah, no, this one's bad. Kirk, your thoughts on Pocahontas?
I don't think I've revisited this since it came out in what was this 95 or 96, whenever this came out. 95, there it is. Yeah, but I thought it was fine then. If I revisit it now, I'd probably agree with you on most of that stuff.
Joseph?
It's been a long time, but I haven't revisited since then. But I do remember loving the ending score. Like that's the biggest positive thing I love about this movie in an otherwise flawed movie.
Mm-hmm. Dylan?
Yeah, I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but even then, I remember being like bored as fuck. So
That's fair. Bill?
Yeah, I was in high school. This is where I checked out of the Disney Renaissance phase because this was like, it's like I don't care anymore. So
Fair enough. Well, Bill, back over to you. What's your least favorite movie log this week?
all right, buckle up, kids. It's gonna get weird. So I have props for this, and I'll just go through it. We don't have to discuss it because you didn't see it. It's fine. So recently, I did a whole Andy Sedaris deep dive, and my Tubi thinks I'm an insane person. It's not wrong. So the movie today we almost talked about was Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death. Until I came across a movie. Now, little bit about Fiancé Knowles. Little bit about Fiancé Knowles. Her favorite word, and if I say this word, she will fucking laugh for 5 minutes, is the word titties. It's always guaranteed to make her laugh. It's just hilarious. She hears it. She's done. Over. It's so funny. So, when Tubi has decided I am a mental patient just on the loose, it says, hey, you watch these movies. This is a movie you want to watch. And I'm not making any of this up that I'm about to tell you. It is 2013's Kung Fu and Titties is the name of this film. Now, I'm going to read it as a quick short synopsis. Richard Titties is the main person, and he's an out-of-shape martial arts wannabe who is shot into an alternate dimension after his girlfriend Cynthia is captured by a bunch of titty-obsessed aliens. Now, Bronson Pinchot is in this for some reason. I have no idea why. And the only reason why we're discussing this is because when I went to go look this up, and I took a screenshot of this, I'm just going to read you the 3 reviews I found on Letterboxd because this is the greatest achievement in human history. Here are the following reviews. The first person is named Stefan, who writes with a 0.5-star rating, I watched this movie because of Bronson Pinchot. I will not watch another movie because of Bronson Pinchot. Jimmy comes in with the next one of the fact that this movie has a story makes it worse somehow because it means that the creators were trying to achieve something and the failure is thus that much greater. Followed by the last review, which is by a guy named Brian, who gave it 4.5 stars and just wrote culturally significant. I yield my time.
Is that Brian Michaels?
I was not, but I thought that would be fucking hilarious.
I realized I got the title wrong. It is Kung Fu and Titties.
Kung Fu and Titties. Yes, it's fucking horseshit. Terrible.
That's fair. I did not expect to just absolutely lose it when you said the main character's name.
Richard Titties. So the whole movie, she is baked and just fucking laughing her ass off. It was a great night. I needed that. So we all
That's
needed
fair.
that.
Like I didn't think anything was gonna beat whatever avocado woman or whatever the thing you said was.
Yeah.
But apparently this did. Yeah.
Thoughts? Panel thoughts? Anybody?
I don't think we can top that, Bill.
Yeah, that's fine.
I would just say it's the recommended section, Bill, not the required section. You don't have to watch these movies.
I know, but it's called Kung Fu and Titties. How could I not watch that?
I love Tubi, though. Tubi.
It really is. Does
Tubi
think
is
I'm
good.
completely insane. It
Tubi's
does. It
great.
really does.
All of Columbo is on Tubi, and Columbo's great, everybody.
Shout
Yeah,
out to
this is
Tubi.
nice.
Sponsor us. There you go.
Yeah, Tubi
That's the deal.
sponsor us. Or if Columbo wants to sponsor us, that would also be great. If Peter Falk's Estate would like to sponsor us, I'd appreciate that. Dylan, save us.
Oh yeah, so my least favorite movie of the week. I'm also going to read out a review here, this time from someone in this community.
Oh,
And
boy.
I like this person a lot, by the way.
So it's not me.
They're a wonderful person. You're cool too, Bill. So from Will Cohen, 3 stars.
Oh, no. I'll start.
Objectively, this is a terrible movie for many reasons, but its self-awareness of how bad it is makes it sorta genius. This is a David Zucker movie called My Boss's Daughter from 2003. This is one of the worst comedies I think I've seen ever. And apparently all it takes to be genius these days is to make it blatantly obvious that you're not even trying to be funny. So that's interesting. But yeah, really awful. Ashton Kutcher this is the first movie I've ever seen him in. And just based on this, I can't really tell why anyone ever decided to put him in a movie, because he is so awful in this movie. Like in the entire time, he's just making this expression the whole time. Just that's his whole performance. That's his whole performance for the entire movie. Terrence Stamp, good for him. I mean, he's the only one actually trying in this movie. Like he's the only one who comes close to selling the humor in this movie. And it makes it all the more sad. Just like, man, you could have just phoned this in and no one would have like blamed you for phoning in my boss's daughter, but he actually tries his best in it. And, I guess good for him. But yeah, this movie sucks. Don't watch it.
I haven't seen this, but I have to step in here because it's nothing against you, Dylan. I don't even necessarily disagree with your point. It's just I have to. I'm from Iowa. I have to defend Ashton Kutcher. We have like 3 celebrities from here, and it's Tom Arnold, it's Cloris Leachman, and it's Ashton Kutcher. Like this is what we have. So
2 of those are quality people, and one of them is Tom Arnold.
Yeah. I have to jump in and defend Ashton Kutcher. The man is great and Cheaper by the Dozen. He is legitimately very funny and Cheaper by the Dozen. Kate, is this orange juice freshly squeezed? Because Lorraine and I are on an organic diet. And this tastes a little bit like Tropicana. Come on. Love me some Ashton Kutcher. Not really, but I have to. Has anyone seen this? Bill, go ahead.
I mean, of course I did. Come on. No, he's right. Terrence Stamp fucking murders it. He's so good. I could watch that guy read the full book. He just completely got what he was doing in this. Also, Dylan, if you want a better Ashton Kutcher movie, dude, where's my car? I feel like you might hate me after that one, but I enjoy it because it's fucking absolutely ridiculous.
That's fair. Yeah. No. Anyway, we'll get in now to Crime Gone Wrong. This show has kind of already gone wrong, but that's okay. Joseph, start us off.
Okay. So this is a movie that I saw last year, and I wish I had seen it sooner because I really like what this studio does with Alec Guinness. Ealing Studios and Alec Guinness, I feel like, are so much entertaining. So entertaining to watch for me. My first pick is The Lady Killers, the 1955 version of The Lady Killers. Such a fun movie. And I also am surprised that it kind of retroactively makes me appreciate more what the Coens did with their version of The Lady Killers. But I think that this movie is very, very entertaining to watch. It's if you've seen the Coen Brothers version, I recommend checking this one out, and it's pretty. I think the humor is pretty spot on with how these guys led by Alec Guinness, but also Peter Sellers, who I did not know was in this movie. He's also really fun to see in this movie. I forget the main actress who plays their landlady, but
Katie Johnson.
Thank you. I love her touch of innocence with her character and how her character gets sucked into this whole mishappenstance with these bumbling criminals. And I feel like I like how she delivers her performance, and Irma P. Hall, I think, is also that much more impressive in the remake because of her added sassiness to the role. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this movie.
No, I've found I really enjoy these early Alec Guinness comedies. Like his sensibilities and mine just line up in terms of humor a lot, and this one's very fun. I love this team of criminals is really fun and really unique. You have Alec Guinness, who's kind of the leader, who's full of himself. You have Cecil Parker as Claude, who's more kind of the sensitive one, I would say. You have Peter Sellers as more the inexperienced one. You have Herbert Long, who you probably know as Inspector Dreyfus from Pink Panther movies, as Lewis, who is more of the intense dark one. And then you have Danny Green as One Round, who is the dumb one. And the way these criminals all kind of individually get thwarted is very funny. Yeah, you're right. Katie Johnson is very funny. I don't hate the Coens one. I don't think it's a good movie, but I don't hate it. There's good things about it. But this one, like comparatively, this one knocks it out of the water. Kirk, you see this one?
This one I have not seen.
Fair enough. Dylan?
Nope, haven't seen.
Bill, I'm gonna just assume.
It's fine. We can move on.
Yeah. Kirk, we'll go over to you.
Okay. This is a tough one for me to narrow down because there's a lot of movies under this umbrella that I enjoy, and I can do some all-time greats. But I want to point out at least one that is underseen and bring some attention to it. I might do two of those. We'll see how the evening goes. But the first one I'm definitely going to do, it's 1972's The Italian Connection. This is an Italian film. I saw an English language dub. I don't know if there's anything else to watch, but I saw the English language dub of this. It's on Criterion. What this is the crime gone wrong is the New York Mafia steals a bunch of heroin from the Italian Mafia. And when the Italian Mafia finds out about it, they find the New York Mafia finds this random small-time crook, this pimp named Luca in Italy to kind of just pin the crime on. And then they send some hitmen after him to kill him before they can find out he's the wrong guy. So it's a great movie because the rest of this movie is basically just Luca avoiding this. And he's played by, let me remember the guy's name. Let me look him up here. Actor's name is Mario Adorf. Just a really fun actor that I've discovered this year in a couple of different movies. Got a really great look, very charismatic. And he starts out just like I said, he's a small-time crook and he's happy doing small-time crimes. Very friendly guy, easygoing, and he gets thrust into this just like huge, like big-time, mafia problem that he's the center of, and everybody's trying to get to him. And they kind of force him to become this like really aggressive, violent criminal just to survive. Movie has one of the all-time great like foot/car/foot scene chase scenes that I've ever seen. Just it goes on forever and it's super intense. It's a lot of fun. A lot of great fight scenes, like when he starts to become like this angry fighter. Like you just see it all come out of him. The guy throws a really mean headbutt. And he throws a lot. And then the hitmen from America are Woody Strode and Henry Silva, and they're a lot of fun. Like they're kind of just deadpan, but they're actually the inspiration for Tarantino, for Vincent Vega, and Samuel Jackson in Pulp Fiction, where they're kind of like they're violent criminals, but at the same time there's like a lot of like dry deadpan humor whenever they're on the screen, and they're only in it in small chunks. Like they're kind of like just like you see them slowly getting closer and pursuing him as he goes through the rest of the story. So it's a lot of fun. It's one of the great one of the all-time great Italian crime movies that I've seen. It's on Criterion now. I think everybody should check it out. It's a lot of fun.
That's fair. Has anyone seen this one?
Nope.
Fair enough. Well, we'll go over to me, and I think I'm gonna start off with probably one of the more obvious ones. And there's a few obvious ones to choose one, but I'd be very sad if this one didn't get brought up because this is probably my ultimate pick of the genre. I think the Coen brothers are the directors that do this probably better than anybody. They've done this trope a lot, and I think the best version of this is Fargo. This is a brilliant movie. Like this is a truly brilliant movie. But the actual crime goes wrong element of this is so good. It's just so good at being the most pathetic human being on the planet. Like he's so funny in this and so pathetic. And you don't really necessarily sympathize with him, but you pity him. Like you're just like, oh buddy, You're like if God killed a person. Oh no! Like he's just a failure. But he's so good in this. And just the way like every little thing about the crime just doesn't go right. It's hilarious. This is a great movie. What can you say? Kirk, thoughts on Fargo?
Yeah, this movie's grown on me more and more the more I've seen it over the years. I didn't love it when it first came out, but I've really come to enjoy it more. But yeah, just the characters are so well done. Like the accents could very easily just be hokey and like get nails on chalkboard after a while, but it's done very naturalistically. Where they even though they are very much Coen brothers characters, they still feel like real people. And Marge Gunderson I think really just grounds the whole thing. But Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare are just so great. Like he's so scary, and Steve Buscemi is so dumb, just how dumb he is, and how he thinks they both think like they're these like genius criminals, and they're both idiots, and it makes just the whole dynamic so much fun. So yeah, a lot of great characters, great film crime. So yeah, it's a good pick. Should be on the list.
Yeah, Dylan.
Yeah, I like this movie a lot. I mean, I'm not like fully in love with it as much as everyone else is, I think, but I still think it's like a objectively great movie. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch. Just this, this whole plan just goes so horribly wrong because like I'm not for any second like I don't care about William H. Macy's character at all. Like not in the way where I think he's like a bad character, but it's just like he's so, like you said, pathetic and kind of unlikable that when shit just starts to go really bad for him, I'm like, yeah, you really deserve that. Yeah, it's just kind of fun to see him get this movie just kicks the shit out of him, basically. But yeah, it's a really fun movie. I also think John Carroll Lynch as a Norm, like their relationship is just really good. Like, obviously, it's just like one of my favorite moments in the movie is just that little moment where he gets up to make her breakfast before she goes off to the crime scene is like really sweet moment. Yeah, just a really good movie.
That's fair. Yeah, Bill.
Yeah, I have seen this one. Yes,
I
do enjoy the Coen brothers. I'm more like I like it when they're a little wonkier, kind of like a Raising Arizona. That's just my taste. Although Blood Simple and everything else is fine. And this is a good kind of marriage between the two. And also, I fucking love every minute Steve Buscemi's in this film because he is just such a dick, and just like it's so good. And I love the fact that they took the way he is in this film, and the reason why they wrote him the way they did in The Big Lebowski is because he would not shut the hell up in this film. So they had the running gag of like everyone is telling him to shut up in that film. So it's just like one of those weird little things that just like I always find funny. But no, it is a solidly good film. Yeah,
that is fair. Well, Bill, we're back over to you. What is your first pick?
Cool. So I like some weird shit. To be clear, yeah, I know it's who I am, but this is a movie I always enjoy just for the absolute bonkers aesthetic. So Alex Cox, if you are not familiar, did Sid Nancy, Repo Man, which is like personal favorites of mine. Well, he decided to remake a spaghetti western, which is the original movie was called Django Kill If You Live Shoot, and he took it, threw it in the California desert on the border to Mexico, and made Straight to Hell in 1987. Now, I'm just gonna read you like who's all in this movie. It's just so it's basically they're bank robbers and they're trying to hide out. Shit goes wrong, and it's just everyone in there is just a complete mental patient. So it's Willie Norwood Sims, and they're traveling with this girl Velma. Velma is played by Courtney Love. Pre-hole Courtney Love. The main bad guy is Joe Strummer from the fucking Clash. And the town is inhabited with Dustin Hoffman, Elvis Costello, Jim Jarmusch, Grace Jones. This is like the weirdest grouping of people ever. And it's just an absolutely bonkers spaghetti western, as only Alex Cox can do. it's free on Tubi right now, which is great because this has been out of print for like years and years. This is like a weird cultural artifact. So I am not going to say it's the greatest, but this is just for the bonkers shit-a-meter. This is absolutely worth a watch. It's fun. I have fun with it. So it's just also just weird seeing all these people together. I think there's like other people too. It's just so odd. I love it.
That's fair. I had never even heard of this movie.
Yeah.
It's funny that I want to say in the same year he does Walker, he does a movie that is, from what I understand, not a Western, but inspired by one. So he does an actual Western and then a movie that is a pseudo-Western. Has anyone seen this?
No, but it sounds awesome.
Yeah,
that
cast
sounds great.
It's good on my watch list now.
Oh, I forgot the Pogues are there for no good reason too. Because fucking why not?
Yeah, sounds great. Dylan, over to you.
Yeah, well, speaking of Jim Jarmusch, my first pick was going to be this either way. I'm going with Ghost Dog: The Way of the Samurai.
Nice.
I fucking love this movie. Like, this is like, this might, if you were to ask me, like, I don't know if you were to ask me, like, what is Jim Jarmusch's best movie, I don't know if this would be one of the ones that I would bring up, but if you were to ask me, like, what is one of the coolest movies of all time, this would definitely be in the conversation, because, like, this movie fucking rules. It's a pretty basic setup where basically Ghost Dog is a hitman, and one of his hits goes wrong, and now he's targeted by the mafia. There's your basic setup. What makes it interesting is, like, the hitman played by Forrest Whitaker is like, he lives by the code of the samurai, basically, and he's friends with one of the guys in the mafia who saved him when he was younger, and now he considers him his master. And he basically finds out about his jobs through him. And yeah, it's on one hand, well, it's got like an amazing story with great characters, and you can enjoy it for that reason because it's a legitimately great movie. It's also just on a completely superficial level, just so fucking cool to see Forrest Whitaker swing guns around like they're katana blades to a soundtrack composed by the RZA, which is awesome. Yeah, this movie is just, it's so fucking good. I love it.
Yeah, no, I've never seen this one, but sounds cool. Kirk?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's really good. Forrest Whitaker's really well cast here. It just, because he plays like one of those kind of, innocent, gentle giant kind of characters that he plays, but he sells this. Like, it'd be very easy because the antagonists are basically like Sopranos characters, like, and like the kind of Sopranos characters that are like in the funnier episodes that you're not meant to take as serious. Like, that's who he's fighting against, and it's Forrest Whitaker who's completely selling the whole like samurai code and samurai lifestyle, and it could come off as kind of silly. But he sells it. I think Jarmusch does a great job of like building the world around him to where it makes sense. And yeah, I've watched it once. I definitely want to go back and see it again because it is a lot of fun. And this is a movie that needs a legacy sequel. Like, I don't want to spoil how this movie ends, but there's a very obvious way to go to make the sequel take place in 2023, and it would be a really awesome story.
It's fair. Joseph, have you seen this?
No, but I've been wanting to.
Bill?
I mean, of course I have. You have me at like RZA and Forrest Whitaker and Kung Fu and Jim Jarmusch. This is like, just please, yes. I remember when I first saw this, I did it on a Forrest Whitaker double feature in my teen years, and I watched this with Diary of a Hitman, which is where he also plays a hitman who is trying to kill Sherilyn Fenn, and he's being like, Jim Belushi is in there for no good reason, but anyway, that's a whole other film. But yeah, no, this is like, when I saw this was like the coolest shit. And then not too long after Coffee and Cigarettes came out, so I was like, all right, I'm kind of down with Jim Jarmusch now. And yeah, now this is an awesome film. So good. 8 out of 5 stars.
Fair enough. Well, I think that brings us back to Joseph. Joseph, what's your second pick?
Oh boy. There's a lot of movies I want to talk about, but I'm also trying to strategically guess who might also talk about them. So this is very tricky.
I recently watched this movie a couple of weeks ago, and I showed it to some of my roommates, and I was very happy to hear them laughing hard throughout the movie. I recently rewatched to prepare for Banshees of Inisherin, the movie In Bruges for with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, excuse me, and I think, what? Never mind. But anyway, I really find In Bruges to be a very entertaining movie and very dark film. I was not expecting the twists that this movie takes, but I love how it connects all of these things together in the movie, and how the gravity of all the characters' actions slowly escalate as they go along. And I really on this rewatch, I really liked Colin Farrell's character Ray, his character arc in the movie, him having made a terrible mistake on a failed hit mission, and then just having such terrible thoughts about himself and suicidal thoughts about it all. And as it goes along, he slowly gets some sort of other motivation to at least try to repair some of the mistakes that he's done, but not quite how it goes. There's some other terrible things that happen along the way that kind of prevent him from fixing all the things that he does, and it's very entertaining to watch.
That's fair. Yeah, no, In Bruges is great. Like, this is such a great crime comedy. I really like Martin McDonagh. That's just a director whose sensibilities really align with mine. And yeah, this one's great. Ray Fiennes is just so good in this. I feel like this is the start of Colin Farrell realizing what he's good at. Because like before this, I don't think maybe it wasn't Colin Farrell's fault, but I don't think Hollywood knew what to do with Colin Farrell. Like they just he didn't really find his thing until I feel like this, which is he's really great at playing somebody who's like, I don't even know how to describe it, but a little bit like irks you, but also you sympathize with. I don't quite know how to word it, but he's very funny in this, and I loved him in Banshees. Yeah, this movie's great. Kirk?
Yeah, this is really solid. I love the movie, the way this movie blends like the genuine pathos and the really tragic story, especially how it kind of like unveils it slowly with like really hilarious comedy. It walks that really fine line that not a lot of movies can do, and I think it's that team. I think it's McDonagh, and I think it's these two actors just working so well together. I'm glad they reteamed them for Banshees. Totally different type of movie, but the chemistry between them is just off the charts. So yeah, another really solid pick.
Yeah, Bill.
I have not seen this movie. So
okay,
I've heard good things. Just one of those things I never got around to.
I feel like this one you'd like, actually.
What else did Martin McDonagh do? That name does sound familiar.
3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and 7 Psychopaths.
Oh, I did enjoy 7 Psychopaths, so I would probably enjoy those. So yeah, I know. I'll get to it.
No, I actually haven't seen this yet. I've been meaning to. I like the McDonagh movies that I've seen. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Fair, yeah. I also feel like you would like this one. Yeah. Anyway, Kirk, over to you.
Okay. For this topic, I'm sure when you hear Crime Gone Wrong and you think of me, there's like 2 or 3 movies that you just assume that I'm going to talk about, and I probably should. But I've talked about those movies a lot, so I'm going to continue and make this a night of introducing more obscure movies. Another one I discovered on Criterion Channel very recently. It's called A Colt Is My Passport. It's a Japanese noir from 1967.
Sorry, is it Colt or Cult?
Colt, Colt. And it's a Japanese noir. It stars a guy named Joe Shishido. And if you haven't seen this guy before, check him out. He was like a pretty famous like crime movie star in Japan in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. Got a really unique look. Again, another one of those actors, very charismatic, fun to watch. Hold on one second. It's just a really exciting movie. Basically, the storyline is it's kind of like one of those one final job things where he's a hitman and he's hired to take out a rival crime boss, and he has kind of like a sidekick or like a student, a criminal that he had followed him around, that he's kind of like teaching and taking care of. And so the hit goes off in the first, I think 10 minutes of the movie, goes off with a hitch. But then the guy they killed, his people come after him, find out it was him, try to take him out. So it becomes a situation where he's trying to protect his protege and keep him safe. He's not much worried about himself. He's trying to keep this guy safe, and which is a really nice relationship there. And it leads up to a really great gunfight. A lot of Western influences in this movie. Really cool score. Very heavily. This is one of those movies you're watching like, oh yeah, Tarantino's definitely seen this. But just a ton of fun. If you get a chance to watch this, watch it. But if you can see anything with Joe Shishido in it, I highly recommend that as well.
It's fair. Has anyone seen this one?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, I watched this movie a while ago. Not a while ago, like maybe 2 years ago, from a recommendation from my good friend Patton Oswalt. And by that, I mean I saw a video of him on Criterion where he was talking about just some of his favorite movies. And this was one of the ones he brought up, and I thought it looked awesome. So I checked it out. Yeah, this movie kicks ass. I mean, yeah, that final shootout is amazing. Like, it's kind of it's basically done in like this wide open field. They managed to make a shootout like in that type of a setting. They managed to make that work, and it's like really exciting and really shot very energetically. Yeah, Joe Shishido is like the badass in it. I've seen a couple of his movies in this genre, and yeah, they're all pretty awesome. So yeah, this is a very good pick. This was on my short list of ones that I was going to pick. I'm shocked someone actually brought it up.
That's fair. Well, now we're over to me. And I'm going with a film by the great director Sidney Lumet. Not going with I think the one that people automatically think of. I'm going with Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, which is a movie I love, and I don't get to talk about this one enough. This is great. Obviously, two guys attempt to rob their parents' jewelry store, and it goes wrong. And I love this movie. Philip Seymour Hoffman, what an actor! Like, he's just, oh man, we lost him too soon and didn't appreciate him enough while we had him. Like, he's so good in this. Ethan Hawke's also great. Really good supporting cast from Albert Finney. Rosemary Harris, who you know as Aunt May, is really good in this. Amy Ryan, Marissa Tomei, a young Michael Shannon. Like, this movie kills. This is just a great movie. I'm so glad Lumet got to end it on a good one. You know, because a lot of these directors, especially when they work as long as Lumet did, like, worked since the 50s, like, usually their last one is kind of a fizzle out. I'm glad he got to end up on top. Dylan, you see this one?
Man, I'm doing terrible today. This is another one I have not seen, but yeah.
I also feel like you'd like this one. Bill?
I think so.
I have not. No.
Joseph?
I have. And Philip Seymour Hoffman not only got to help Sidney Lumet finish with a bang, he also helped Mike. Why am I blanking on his name? Charlie Wilson's War.
Nichols,
thank you. I don't know why I was blanking. He also helped Mike Nichols finish his directing career with a strong movie, Charlie Wilson's War, also coming out in 2007, and Mike Nichols' final movie. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie more than I thought I would. I liked seeing how this crime spirals out of control and the way that it connects all the plots and the perspectives from the various characters was not what I was expecting. The one thing that made me go like, that's a little weird, was the editing. I don't know why, but the sudden way that it flashed from different characters' perspectives threw me off just a little bit. But other than that, I really liked seeing how this the crime gone wrong elements escalate and grow more serious as the movie went along.
That's fair. Kirk?
Yeah, obviously Lumet's one of my favorite directors, and this is a great, final film for him. Great cast actors for him to work with, and it just really gets the best. I think this movie really benefits from Lumet's style, like the way he makes a film. I think this is just a really good troupe of actors to build around him, and it's a really good story to progress out from that. And yeah, I mean, this crime really goes wrong. It is kind of depressing how wrong this goes, and just watching this downward spiral of Philip Seymour Hoffman and his brother is really hard to watch, but it's a great movie.
Well, Bill, we'll go over to you.
All right. I'll give you guys. Do you guys want the funny one, or do you want the one everyone will universally agree is a fantastic film? I will let the audience pick. What do you guys want?
You're Bill. Be Bill.
You know what? I'm going to give you guys a break. We're going to talk about Michael Mann's Heat.
Oh, fair. So the opposite of what I said.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you guys
It was
pick.
either going to be Heat or Rush Hour. Those were my two movies. So.
You know what? Never mind. Never mind.
You chose wisely.
Yeah. No.
I mean, I love Rush Hour, to be wrong, but I don't get to talk about this enough. I love Michael Mann. I really do. That may surprise a lot of people, but he is easily in my top 3 of directors. I used to joke, especially after Collateral, that Michael Mann could make a 3-hour documentary on the migratory pattern of geese, and I would be engrossed for all 3 hours. He would somehow make it just worthwhile. And Heat it's got to be up there. I mean, I remember when this came out, we were me and my friends, because we're huge film nerds, and my friend was on a real bender with De Niro films. He had his whole filmography. It was his favorite actor, and he was going through, and we were seeing everything. So in the span of a year, we ended up watching what was it, Bang the Drum Slowly, what was the other one? Mad Dog and Glory, and just all the stuff you wouldn't normally catch. And then Heat came out, and we went to the theaters, and I was blown away. It is just so stylish, so slick. The entire fucking planet is in this film. And that might be one of the most tensest, greatest bank robberies gone wrong I've ever seen committed to film. It could have went on for half the runtime, and I would have been thrilled. Excuse me. Also, my favorite Joy Division song used in the film, so kudos for that. And just a great scene of and the best scene in the film is no action, and it's just De Niro and Pacino actually having a conversation with each other in a coffee shop, and you see how much their lives parallel each other, and just how they're kind of two sides of the same coin. They're just going in different directions. It's just fucking God, I love this movie.
That's fair. Yeah, no, Heat's great. I think the diner scene is, at the risk of being obvious, one of the greatest scenes ever put to film. Just taking two characters and just having them both essentially be the unstoppable force and the immovable object is so brilliant. And yeah, I don't know what you can say about this movie that hasn't been said. It's brilliant. Kirk?
Yeah, obviously the De Niro and Pacino stuff is great, but I think the supporting cast is really solid in this, and not just the cast, but their stories. There's a lot of fully fleshed out thing going here, with Val Kilmer and his his wife and their situation, and the way that all wraps up is so good. Even Danny Trejo's little the little moments he has are really good. You really feel what that character is going through. Dennis Haysber's subplot, like I said, it only maybe gets 5-10 minutes of screen time in the whole movie, but it feels so real, and you really feel for that character. So I think that's one of the things that makes this movie so great, is it feels very lived in, and another one with a lot of crimes that go very wrong. So and just kind of the fallout of that is the whole entire movie, which is really cool.
That's fair. Joseph?
Yeah, I love this movie. The string of movies that Michael Mann did, with Manhunter all the way to Insider, is maybe my favorite 4-movie streak, theatrical streak anyway, that a director has done. Manhunter, Last of the Mohicans, Heat, and then The Insider. I loved the cinematography that in a lot of Michael Mann movies really floor me when I see them, and it's 3 hours long, but I don't feel the length when I see this movie. I also love the score. The Goldenthal score with this movie is also very cool and stylish.
and atmospheric. I love it.
That is fair. Dylan?
Yeah, I actually haven't seen this movie for a while. Like I saw it once when I was like just before I was getting into film, and like I didn't really get it at the time because I was way younger and I thought it was quite long. But yeah, I need to rewatch it. I'm sure I'd like it a lot more today.
That's fair. Dylan, bring us home.
Yeah, I'll finish off with a film that I know not everyone loves, but I'm a big fan of. I love Drive with Ryan Gosling. Yeah, I know Nicholas Winding Refn is a director who takes very big swings, and I know a lot of people hate him. I'm not crazy about all of his films, but I think this is the one where his style like works the best because it's like very reined in, I feel like. And yeah, just I think Ryan Gosling, while yes, he doesn't talk very much, I think he's still giving like a really great performance just as like this very stoic, silent character. Yeah, great opening chase scene, like just awesome. And I'm not going to bring up the person that I'm sure the other person on the panel will bring up, but I will say he is great in the movie. Yeah, just great performances from all the cast, even like in small bit roles like Oscar Isaac is kind of in and out very quickly in this movie, but he's very good. Yeah, it's a film that I've been a big fan of for a while now. It was, again, one of the first ones that I watched when I was becoming the pretentious bastard that I am today. And it was one of the ones that kind of led me down that direction. So yeah, I like it a lot.
Albert Brooks. He's freaking great. He's terrifying in this. Look, Nicholas Winding Refn can be kind of a moron at times. If you've ever seen that interview with him and William Friedkin,
so good.
He looks like the most like punchable human being on the planet after that interview. That being said, that man enjoys Lost in America, so he will always have a pass in my book because that man literally said he watched Lost in America, watched that one monologue where Albert Brooks yells at Julie Haggerty and said, "This guy has the range to play this mobster," and he was absolutely right. This is like such. I'm going to focus on the Albert Brooks of it all because I mean, this is like such a great role for Albert Brooks because he's just so quietly terrifying in this. Like he's just so like you can tell he has the sympathy for Gosling, and when he has to take him out, it's like so good. And when he has to stab that guy with the fork, like that's such a it's such a weird thing as someone who loves Albert Brooks so much, watching him play just a completely non-Albert Brooks character, but he's so good in it. I'm so sad he wasn't nominated for this. Like he absolutely deserved the nomination for this. He is incredible. Anyway, Kirk, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on the Albert Brooks stuff because just to get him to play that kind of socio, and like not just a total sociopath, because there is there's a scene in the movie where he has to kill somebody, and it's somebody he doesn't necessarily want to kill, and the way he does it is so like cruel, but also like the kindest way that he could possibly make it happen. And just the way he does it and the words that come out of his mouth are just so devastating. It's such a great scene. But yeah, the way Refn uses Ryan Gosling is kind of funny to me because I think between this and Only God Forgives, Gosling has like maybe half a dozen lines of dialogue. So he just likes him to sit there and look pretty. The movie's grown on me. The first time I saw it, I was just like, oh, this is just kind of insufferable. Watched it again, and I think because of the supporting cast, because the story's solid, I liked it a lot more, and I think if I watched it more, I'd probably get more out of it. But no, overall, it's a pretty solid pick.
Joseph?
This movie gave me a face to latch onto Albert Brooks, and I didn't know until later on that was the voice of Marlin. So that was fun. I haven't seen this the whole way through, but I like a lot of the stylish cinematography that I've seen of it. But yeah.
That's fair. Bill?
Dylan, you're 2 for 2 with me, but just so you know that. All right, cool. You fucking slam dunking it. You're crushing life. So here's a funny story. This is the second Nicholas Winding Refn movie I saw. The first was Neon Demon. We'll talk about that one later. So, because that's a fucking thing that happened. And I was like, I don't know if I'd ever ready for this guy again. So he was like, no, you need to watch Drive. And I was fucking floored when I saw this movie. Ryan Gosling's actually, I think there's a great scene with him and Carey Mulligan where he's like, you could take the money, you could go, and she just slaps him. Like, 'cause he's like so detached from like human experience. He doesn't understand what he's doing. And like, it's such a great scene. And between that and scene of the film is the elevator scene. That is like one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen, of just like a fantastic use of color. And then like when them getting with her getting off, and then all the blue, like highlighting just how like completely different worlds they are, and just the violence in that moment after this very sweet and tender scene. I think it's fantastic. I fucking love this movie. Also, poor Christina Hendricks deserved better, because holy shit.
Sure. Well, that wraps up this portion of the show. To recap, our picks were The Lady Killers, The Italian Connection, Fargo, Straight to Hell, Ghost Dogway, The Samurai, In Bruges, A Cult Is My Passport, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, Heat, and Drive. But before we go, still got the movie of the month to talk about. Kirk, you've already talked about it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that just leaves Joseph, Bill, and Dylan. Did anyone not have a chance to get to it?
Got to it.
So I've seen it before, but I didn't get a chance to rewatch it for this because I
will leave that to your prerogative.
Okay.
If you would like to talk about it, if you would like to not, that's your prerogative. But Joseph, you had a chance, so I'll let you start off.
Yeah, I liked this movie a lot more than I thought I did. The premise seemed very, icky to me when this first came out. But seeing it, I really liked the cinematography and the direction and the camera movement of this movie. It really adds to the paranoia and just unease that Jay, the main character, is going through whenever she's on the lookout for wherever it is coming for her. And the soundtrack slaps. I love the techno feel of it, and I was very invested in the atmosphere and the horror of all the things that happened to her, except for the mom scene. I did not need to see that, but other than that, it was a very entertaining horror movie. 4 out of 5. It's a 4 out of 5 for me.
Bill?
Yeah, I've seen this a few times. This is I used to work with a girl, and she was just like, she raved about this film. She's like, I'm like, I'm more of like this kind of horror guy. I'm not really into like a lot of the newer stuff that's coming out. She's like, no, you really need to give this a whirl. And holy shit, I was floored. Like, and every time I just get something new out of it every time. I also kind of love that the movie, it's almost like a dreamlike kind of atmosphere to it. And there's also a timelessness to it, with the exception of just like the little weird shell like reader that she has. It's not really a whole lot that like you would feel like it would date it to an exact time. Like, I feel like it kind of gives it this timeless feel to it. And the beach scene is probably one of the like legitimately a very good scary scene. So 4 out of 5. This is an absolute recommend.
Dylan, are you wanting to talk about it, or?
Yeah, I can for a little bit briefly. I remember seeing this in theaters. It was a really cool experience where just coming out of it, that just the paranoia that this movie was able to build was like great. And like, even though it was also kind of ruined, because I know a lot of people that I saw it within the theater hated it, because I heard them talking about it from behind me, like that movie sucked. But then when I actually got to the street, I was like very paranoid, like, wow, what if someone's following me? But yeah, really good stuff. I'm not good with scores. Like, they don't stick in my memory very often, but this is one where just off one watch, I had like multiple tracks stuck in my head. I thought it was like a really effective score. Like, I was trying to look up the name of the piece that happens where it's just like the camera's doing like a 360 and the music's like do 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 do. It's like it's very like eerie, like almost plinky sounding to it, but it like fucking terrified me. And every now and then I would just like, if I want to creep people out, I would just throw on that song I'd sneak up on people and just play that song, and because I'm a bit of a jerk. But yeah, it's a great movie, and I really want to rewatch it because it's a very good film.
That's fair. Well,
Star ratings.
Star rating?
Yeah.
Oh, 4.5.
Okay. Well, that about wraps it up for the show. Thank you everyone for watching. We will thank you to Bill, thank you to Dylan, thank you to Joseph, thank you to Kirk. We will see you all later.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, good